Welcome to the Alain Elkann interviews, an unprecedented window into the minds of some of the most well-known and respected figures of the last 25 years.
I read about your story. Somehow you wanted to be an artist.
Yes, I haven't abandoned the idea. But, I was like the little painter in the family, you know? Like I would do portraits of my sisters or my parents. And I was always very interested with art, visual art, and also cinema. And in a way, I decided not to be an artist like a painter, because I had and I still have a very high vision of what an artist is doing and how much involvement it means. And in a way, I thought maybe I won't do that.
You have a clear idea.
I don't know if it's clear, but I always...
what an artist's commitment is.
Yes, how many hours, night and day or whatever, and thinking of it. And when I saw how I was doing when I was doing a portrait, I thought maybe I won't, let's say, sacrifice enough of all my time. I had doubts that I will give all the time to that, you know. And also there is a lonely aspect when you draw or paint. Well, now people have a lot of assistants in this, but I was not seeing it that way. But I decided to remain in the field. And I hesitated with cinema at one point, because I love also cinema as a visual art. I did both studies of art.
You decided to remain in the field, you say, no?
In the art, you know, but maybe on the other side of the fence, when you are a dealer, it's...
So you decided to remain in the field after you were married, right?
No, that's before. I mean, since I'm a teenager, I've been thinking of... that.
But you opened your gallery
later on, after my studies.
When did you open your first?
It's in '89, and I had finished my studies of art history, and also cinema. I'm still very interested by cinema.
I mean, I finished my studies in art and cinema, right?
Yes, in Paris.
But you didn't want to be a producer of film?
I did.
Or maybe
it could have happened.
You didn't.
I didn't. I chose the visual art, plastic art. It's also a question of coincidence. Maybe if I had met some people from the cinema, you know, you never know how things go, but I was closer to art people, so it became natural that I go towards art. I mean, plastic art and not cinema.
You opened a gallery
in Paris
with Boutman.
Yes, Cyril. Well, it was not for long. Then I continued alone quite quickly. It's very difficult to do this type of work with two people. Sometimes it works. Some galleries are ruled by two persons, but it's quite complicated.
Difficult to be two.
Yes, because there are some rational aspects, but there are a lot of subjective aspects. And
then you met
Bernard, my husband, or much later.
Picasso. And you created a foundation also, no?
Yes.
Bernard Picasso, and you went to live in Belgium, no?
Well, we stayed in Paris quite a long time because we married in 2000 and we went to live in Belgium in 2006. But we met in 97.
And you created a foundation?
We created the foundation in 2002, I would say. In Spanish, it's...
Why is it in Spanish?
Because we based the foundation in Madrid. But it can be said foundation or Fundación Almine y Bernard Picasso para el arte.
And what do you do?
Okay, the foundation, we created it as a tool to loan Picasso works. and also to loan contemporary artworks that we own. It's also to really separate any commercial aspect to which I'm related as a gallery, separated from non-commercial aspect. The foundation is absolutely non-commercial. It's a tool to loan, to create shows, and to support some shows and institutions. We are very much asked to loan Picasso works.
You own many Picasso works?
Yes. My husband is the grandson, is the son of Paul, and Paul was the only legitimate son of Picasso. And so...
Who was his mother?
Olga.
The mother of your husband?
No, the mother of my husband is Christine. She's French. She's still alive, she's French. The mother of Paul was Olga. It's the only marriage of Picasso that gave birth to a child. So it's really...
So you own the larger collection of Picasso?
I don't know, but it's...
I mean, you have more paintings than Claude or Paloma or...
Well, Paul, the father of my husband, was the main heir because he was the legitimate son. And unfortunately, he died almost at the same time as his father, Picasso.
He died of what?
He was sick since a while, and he died 1 year and a half after Picasso died. So his children, Marina and my husband, they took the place of Paul, as the inventory had not even started when Paul died.
What do you do with all these paintings?
It's really the job of my husband since many years. So the foundation has some people, like there is a conservator who supervises the things.
But where are the paintings?
They are mostly in Belgium. A conservator, some restorer, handlers, register, many people, because you have so many Picasso exhibitions in the world every year, and so the foundation is asked by many museums to loan works. So it's a very complicated work, and it takes a lot of time because you have to know which one you want to loan or not, which one goes where, which one needs to rest because it was loaned for a while. It's not without risk that you fly a painting, the plane has to land, there are risks, so paintings have to rest, and there are special crates. It's a whole thing that takes, and so that's what we do.
Have an independent life as a gallerist with such
that was
heritage.
I know that was on the shoulders of my husband, basically. Well,
I mean, can they say, why does she do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure.
She had so much. Why does she
want
to do that?
Yeah, some people wonder why I don't see it back. Not be so involved with promoting artists. But the thing is that I was doing that much before I met my husband, Bernard. I love what I was doing, and I did not abandon my work because I met my husband. And if I did not really have a passion for what I'm doing, obviously I would have abandon and maybe only work with the foundation. But the person that has the work at the foundation is mostly my husband.
But not only you did not give up, but increased.
Yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
After Paris, you opened galleries in Brussels.
When I moved to Brussels, I felt far away. Yeah, and then London.
And New York.
And New York since a bit more than a year. Well, that was...
Very ambitious.
Yeah, quite ambitious, but that was the natural evolution of the gallery since almost like 20 years. And sometimes I wonder, even myself, why I create so much responsibility for me. And sometimes, of course, I wonder, but it's a kind of natural movement. Or you stop completely, or you grow. That's the thing nowadays. It's very difficult to remain at the same level. You have to grow.
You do primary market and
secondary.
Secondary market.
Secondary market is more resale from works that, well, the main difference is that primary is works coming from the studio of the artist or from the estate if the artist passed away. Secondary is, for instance, if I have sold a work to someone 10 years ago and he comes back to me and says, now I need to sell it, that's secondary. It's come from a collection, from a private person.
It is selling from a collection to another.
Yeah. It's not getting a new work or a work directly
like
from the artist.
auction.
Yeah, private sales. Both are complementary, but it's very interesting to...
Complementary in the financial sense?
Yes, in the business sense, for the gallery functioning, for the gallery business. And it's interesting too, because you can find works you forgot about, or works that people are looking for, and all of a sudden you find it for them.
And the primary?
Primary is the most interesting in terms of
That's what you love,
art.
right?
Yes, it's how I started. I was doing only primary for many years. It's meeting an artist, deciding with him that we are working together to promote his art and create his career or make his career evolve. Studio visits are so interesting. It's the most interesting part.
Studio visits.
Yeah, when you visit an artist studio and you speak with the artist, it's the most interesting, I think. For myself, it's the best moments.
Are you proud of some of your discoveries?
Yes.
Over the years?
Well, discoveries can be very emerging young artists that become famous. I have a few. And it can be also artists that are not recognized, but that exist since a long time. Like, for instance, when I started with James Turrell, first time I showed him in Paris, his name was kind of known because he had some museum shows, but no gallery had ever installed a light piece inside a gallery. They maybe had shown some studies of like drawings, but never really an installation where you enter and you see a light piece. And this I'm very proud I did it in France, and then I did it in Belgium, and now, of course, over the years, he's more than recognized. He's iconic artist who used the light as a matter, really as a sculptor would use stone, but he does it with light.
And others?
Well, younger artists like, for instance, someone like Alex Israel. I started a few years ago with him, and nobody really knew him. And now he's really well known. Well, he was the artist honored at the BFM, and he's very successful. And
you are very involved with Jeff Koons,
Yes, but Jeff was already a superstar when I started.
You are also in the secondary market, right?
Yes. No, with Jeff I do primary, but I can do secondary also. But
with Jeff Koons, Ed Rouchet.
Ed, I'm not representing Ed. I do sometimes secondary because I like his work a lot.
Who are the others?
Pezzoli,
What is his name?
Francesco Pezzoli, Joe Bradley.
How can you handle 4 galleries at the same time? Which one is doing better?
In the handling aspect, how to handle, I have, like here in London, someone very good who is the director, Jason Corey. In Paris, I have a very good director, Aurélia Chabria. She used to be at Christie's for many years and in charge of Asia and relation between France and Asia at Christie's and collectors. She's really good. And the director in New York is my son, Paul. And he has a great director. The co-director is called Isan Buxbaum. Paul is really and he has this guy working with him.
And which one goes better?
For a young gallery, like it's only 1 year old, New York is doing very well. London too. Paris and Brussels are okay. Maybe Paris is a bit more active since the new elections. People are more optimistic right now in Paris. Things go better. And Belgium is okay, but it's a less strong capital. I mean, it's going well, but it's not like London or...
How do you divide your life?
My life? Well, I have two aspects. My husband and my children. I have two teenagers. The younger ones, I have 4 children. And 2 are still teenagers. They just turned 16. So my children and my husband are really very important in my life, of course. And also the art. That's the 2 things, that take all my time.
You spend much time in your country house.
In Boiselou?
Picasso's.
Well, it's a kind of, they call it the castle in this village.
No?
Yeah, Boiselou. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Pablo bought this home in 1930. He was looking for a place where he could do sculptures. And obviously, an estate in the countryside is very good with all the what we call les communs en français, in French. They are ground floor, so you have the house, and in front of it you have what used to be, we call les communs.
And you have many sculptures there?
No, it's all gone. And Pablo took away all the sculptures just before, because he would work the sculptures only in plaster, like with some metal structure, and he would model it by hand with plaster. And so at the beginning, when the Second World War was being announced, and he was afraid that there could be distractions or people coming in, and so he took trucks and had all the plaster go to Paris. I would say maybe between 1935, 37, we could check the dates, and he had them all made in bronze. Afterwards, he put them in Grands Augustins, where...
All of them?
Well, some remained at the foundry, but they went to Grand Augustin. Brassailles photographed the plasters in Boiselou. At the time, he was sent by a magazine, but I forget the name, art magazine.
And they were all photographed by Brassailles?
The plasters. Maybe not all of them, but most of them.
Most of the plasters.
He was sent by a magazine, art magazine. That's how they started really being close. He did all the photos, which became, as you say, very important memory of the studio.
Beautiful book he wrote, Brassailles.
Yeah.
Picasso.
Yes, of course. And after, they became very friends. And then he came to Grands Augustins during Second World War, and he photographed plasters and he photographed some bronzes at that moment because they were cast, some of them. And so Boiselou's studio
How is it
was
to live
empty.
in Picasso's house?
Well, it's wonderful. It's full of memories. furnitures that you can find on many books. Everything remained there, was untouched, and the studio itself is untouched. It's totally as it was, only it's empty. But there is the big ladder that he was using to look at his sculptures from the top, from high. There is the lamps. I mean, everything.
When do you go there? In weekend?
Yeah, sometimes weekend, or if we have a few days. Or of course, when we were living in Paris, we would go almost every week. Now it's a bit further from Brussels. All of my children, they had all the time, like when they were not in school and weekends, or we were there. They have great memories there.
As a dealer, you sometimes sell some of the Picasso?
No, not from our collection, but I do work with some Picassos, yes.
I do, but not from my collection.
No, not.
You never sell?
No, not from my collection. Our private collection is really a private collection. But of course, I know where some Picassos are, and I might have quite good access.
Yeah, but your husband never sells anything?
Well, each of the heirs had to sell at some point a few things, although they kept a lot. But one needs cash at the beginning of making your life, and So, of course, probably each of the heirs have been selling quite a few works, but it's quite rare. Everybody wants to invest in Picasso, so they should not sell what they own, only if they need cash, of course. Everyone needs cash at some point.
What relationship you have with the Musée Picasso?
Paris? Very good. My husband is part of the committee there, and it represents the estate tax. So, of course, the family...
Very good, you said.
Very good, very good. Laurent Lebon is the president of Musée Picasso Paris.
We did interview him.
Laurent Lebon. He's a very open-minded person, and of course he considers the family as the closest relation to the museum.
Family, they are friends?
Yes. Well...
in the family, they are friends?
Yes. Claude, Paloma, the children of Françoise Gillot, and Maya, the daughter of Marie-Thérèse Walter. Marie-Thérèse and Françoise were the two main mistresses, let's say. We are all very friends together.
Picasso made so many paintings.
Yes.
And statues and sculptures and objects.
Sculptures, not so many. Sculptures, he did like 310, more or less. And they are in very few editions, because bronzes, are, but sometimes it's 2 with him, 2, 3. It's very little.
Yeah, how many paintings he made?
Oh, paintings, we should ask the conservator of the foundation, but it's around 4,000.
Not so much.
Yeah, but he did many drawings. He did the most fantastic etchings, as you know. I think people are starting only now to discover his etchings. And it is the best deal you can do on Picasso is to buy etchings. Because people are not, they don't really look in depth, and it's probably one of the greatest etching artists. They are fantastic, especially the late period. Until the very last moment, he did very complicated etchings with crazy number of lines. And it's difficult, on metal. His hand was so good until the very end. So sculpture, and he did 3,000, more than 3,000 original ceramics, unique ones. He was working all the time, and you can find also ceramics in edition, because he discovered this ceramic factory in Valoris when he was living after the Second World War in the south of France, which he did not leave after, he remained there. And it was the Madura family, Madoura. And people were quite poor after Second World War. It was difficult. So he made all his unique and originals. They let him use the studio, whatever he wanted. And he said, okay, it's nice. In exchange, I will do some works that are made to be editions and that you can sell. And he would not ask them any money. So that's why you have the originals of Picasso, and some he gave them specific ones to do editions. And nowadays, the editions are also very much sought after, the ceramic edition.
So you have an interesting life, right?
Very much. I think so.
Between Picasso's memory
and contemporary art. But Picasso memory is the right way.
The question is,
he's very contemporary.
Is there a new Picasso?
It's hard to say, and also you need many years of distance to make sure. Well, in my opinion, there was always needed the whole art world, like many artists, to have like 5 or 6 come out, you know? Everything is needed. So now we have that. You have
5 or 6?
I don't know, but it's always been like this, you know, like at the time of Picasso you had hundreds, but we forgot about them. And those hundreds, they made like the possibility to have Picasso, Braque, Matisse, and it's the same today. So that's why I love what I do, because I think every artist, whatever he becomes in the future, is needed to have the art history keep a few of them, you know. Everyone is as important.
Who are the few today?
It's difficult to say. I could give you names, but I have absolutely no guarantee, because the distance we need is minimum 40 years, 50 years of career. You know, America has been the very strong country after Second World War. So obviously some American artists will remain, because that's where the art world was after Second World War until now. And that's what happened in Paris. The art world was there. That's why you had in Paris Mondrian, Modigliani, Picasso.
From Paris it went to New York.
Yes, and that's why all the artists of the 20th century, at least until the 60s, that remain were at some point in Paris. And probably some of that will remain of end of 20th and 15 years of the 21st, some of them will be American because of that. But also, I think some German artists are very interesting, so I don't want to create any, it's so difficult. But I know there are some important artists. Well, for instance, in the minimal movement in America and in the pop movement, we know already who are the great masters. Some are passed away. We know that Donald Judd is a major sculptor of the 20th century. He's American. He's like the number one, maybe in the minimalist movement. Those artists that are already the great masters, some are alive, some just died. We know who is important among that group. Minimal, pop. It's the same how few they are compared to the number that worked in the 60s, 70s. You see, we kind of have...
Because they are the best, or just because of chance?
No, because they are the best. Because they did something very strong and they declared something that is really the history of our history of that time. The Americans created their own art after Second World War based on European art, of course, because art is coming from out. It's not born from nothing.
Are the prices too high?
No. Well, it depends. But I think masterpieces of the 20th century will be worth much more than what they are now. You know, like something very strange, like the whatever you think of the painting, the condition in which it was found. You know that what they are worth now. Now you can have works of modern art, like in the 51st years of 20th century, that go to 200 million, up to 250 in private sales. Okay. This is a very important, I think.
So I don't have to worry for your future, right?
For the future of my children.
We can be okay.
I think so. But, you know, the price of 450 is a very pivotal thing. I think it shows people that some very rare artworks can go over between 500 and 1 billion. So that's how you can imagine the future of masterpieces. This is the first time you have that. But is money worth something? That's the thing too. I mean,
in what sense?
Well, money now is, I mean, it's so much, it's big numbers, like 450 or 500 or whatever. But you could get more with money in the past than now, you know? I don't know the value of money compared to things like homes or artworks or stones or I don't know what. Money has lowered, I think. So we don't know the future of money. You see? I don't know. The bitcoins, the whatever. In fact, I think the things that value a lot is what we believe in. If we believe in art, it will be worth more and more. If we stop believing in art, it will not be worth nothing. It's a question of belief. Same, if you don't believe in stones, in diamonds, then it will not be worth. We need to believe in something. That's why it's worth so much. I think so. It's very subjective also, in a way. But for art, I think it's real. Because if we did not have art, I think, it's my personal opinion, if we did not have art, we would not really remember human history. Since the prehistorical times, it's always art, like the cave art, you know, the drawings in the caves, the first hand, that this is fascinating to me. I mean, what would we remember if we did not have the pyramids, the Egyptian frescoes, we would not remember our history. I think art writes our history, more than dates, wars, economy, whatever you learn in a history book.
Also literature, right?
Literature is art.
It's worth less, sadly.
Yeah, and music is worth less, except the rock and roll or whatever. But look at musicians. Some are great composers. They don't make any money. It's maybe because there is not something unique you can own personally.
Alain Elkann interviews.